All right, everybody. Welcome to the 173rd edition of the Holy Backboard podcast. I am Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage chilling here in Beaverton, Oregon. Got my Cool G Rap T-shirt on. I'm feeling mighty gangster, and this is honestly the first Holy Backboard that's gonna be on YouTube. So we wanted to show out. I sort of cleaned my office, not really, but you can't see that much shit behind me, and that's dope. But
You,
yeah,
you know I had to bring out the vintage heat for the first YouTube episode, so
yeah, you got the vintage hat. I got Cool G Rap. We're ready to go, man. Ain't no other
yep.
Blazers podcast talking Cool G Rap in the first 2 minutes.
We got Cool G Rap and we got Zubaz Terry Porter 1990 hat. This is why you're here. This is why you listen. Thank you so much. It's been a minute, but frankly, there hasn't been much to talk about up until now. We had FanFest kicked everything off last Sunday. Portland has played 60% of their preseason games. All of their home schedule has been completed. They do have two more back-to-back against the Jazz and Denver Nuggets. Sage, there's been a lot that has gone on since FanFest, and it's trying to figure the right phrasing for this because I didn't expect this podcast to be as deep as we're going to go into it. But I'm a little concerned early on. How are you feeling?
I mean, I hate to use the phrase that's going around, but it's preseason, and there's so much turnover. It's like 8 or 9 rotation players coming into this team. To expect them to be on point and hitting at full targets on, game 3 of the preseason is kind of a little frustrating. It's not a real 100% accurate thing. Like you can't you remember those Spurs teams with the Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, and they'd switch really, really well. That took years of continuity. We're trying to compete with guys that have played together maybe like 10 times in practice. So yeah, like watching them miss rotation sucks, but it's understandable.
I understand that. And in theory, to me, it all makes sense. But if we look at the first three games for the Blazers, opening night preseason in the Memorial Coliseum against Denver without Nikola Jokic, 105-94 loss. Obviously, Dame and CJ just play a half of basketball. Two nights later, they take on Haifa with basically no Dame, CJ, Nurk, Hassan, and blow them out 104-68. And then Saturday's game back at the Rose Garden, a 134-118 loss to the Phoenix Suns, who showed up in Portland without Ricky Rubio, without DeAndre Ayton, and without Devin Booker. And Sage, our guys played regular season rotation minutes for the most part. I wasn't too concerned about the Denver game because they kind of treated it as more of an homage to the first season. Obviously, the whole staff came out in their 70s attire, which was incredible. Terry was looking dapper. The entire staff actually was dressed to the nines from the 70s. We were in our sweet vintage unis in the Glass Palace where it all started. And a lot of the training camp guys got a lot of run. So you don't really take too much from game one. Obviously, you love to see Simons put up 22, Scal grab 15 boards, just completely dominate Haifa. But why I am starting to get concerned was that Phoenix game. I went in there knowing the rosters going into that game. They were without those three players, arguably their three best players. And Sage, we looked disinterested. We looked like we couldn't care less that basketball was back. Everyone outside of CJ McCollum and Sparks from Kent Bazemore moving at half speed. To me, if I am a member of the Portland Trailblazers, we're coming off of the best season in 19 years, making it to the Western Conference Finals. You now have everyone in the media saying you're the team that's going to drop off. You may not even make the playoffs. Not only do I use that as motivation, but I use our previous season's success as motivation. I want to get to the top. We got swept. Regardless of where it occurred, we got swept and we blew big leads in 3 of those 4 contests. I just would have expected a little bit more urgency, a little bit more fire, a little bit more enthusiasm, to be quite frank, coming into the preseason. And it's not like the preseason is 7 or 8 games like it once was. It's 5 games, Sage, and you're playing in front of your home fans. I just don't think it is the right mindset. I don't think it is the right tone to set as you ramp up the 50th anniversary season in what is slated to be the most difficult Western Conference maybe in my lifetime as a fan, which dates back to 1990. I know we discussed our predictions a couple of episodes ago in the late summer, and I've had some time to think about it, Sage, and I don't know where I heard it. It might have been on Rip City too, but I don't think you're going to see as much load management as maybe we saw last year across the Western Conference. This conference is going to be a bloodbath, and if you don't bring your best over the course of 82 games, 1, you may not make the playoffs. 2, you may not get the seed you want. 3, you may not get home court advantage. Seeding and matchups are going to be everything in April. That, to me, is what is going to determine who's going to come out of the Western Conference. There are simply too many great teams that there's not one team above the rest that says this is the odds-on favorite. They have all of the talent in the world. They're just going to flip the switch, and they're the preseason pick, and like we've seen in the past with Golden State. It could be a litany of teams, and it's going to come down to who takes the regular season the most serious. And again, I'm just concerned. Not saying anybody should be on the hot seat, anybody should be fired or traded, but to me, it's not a great start when we are 1 week removed from FanFest, and I'm already asking myself, should I be concerned that what I just witnessed last night? I mean, to me, that felt as close to a regular season loss without it impacting the standings as one loss could feel. Just not a good look for what I thought was a veteran team posed to make a run in the West.
I mean, yeah, they didn't play their best, but I think right now is a perfect time to experiment with lineups and rotations that are kind of odd. You saw it with Anthony Tolliver starting with Hassan. That shouldn't be the starting lineup. Zach should have that role because he's a superior player. But it's just about rotations. There are going to be times where those two, Hassan and Tolliver, play together, and you got to see if it works. And this is kind of like a low pressure environment for them to try things that wouldn't work, just to experiment and see. So I'm not taking these losses very seriously at all. It's just there's a difference between a dress rehearsal and the actual thing. I'm waiting to see in the actual games that matter, are they coming out kind of shitty? Then I'm going to worry. But if they're playing hard and making the right rotations, all of this shit is just it doesn't matter. These games don't matter. I got to see it when it actually matters against the Nuggets in the regular season.
I think that is still a slippery slope.
Absolutely it is. But
because what's the old adage? Practice makes perfect. You should prepare like it's the real deal, because when the real deal shows up, you've been there. That's old hat. It's bothersome that they aren't taking it as seriously as they should. Bottom line, and I completely agree that it is time to check what rotations work the best, who should be starting. I will say Tolliver starting instead of Zach Collins was a major head scratcher, because the entire reason we let Al-Farouq Aminu go to the Orlando Magic was to usher Zach Collins into that starting 4. And with Zach new to the starting lineup, Hassan new to the team, I would have used all of these 5 games as much as possible to give them as much run together to get some chemistry, because the first 20 games of the season are absolutely brutal. I just don't understand saying, oh, we're going to, Hassan, we're going to rest you for the second game, and then the third game, we're going to let Anthony Tolliver play alongside you. I would love to hear Terry Stotts' reasoning and rationale for that decision. To me, more of the rotation should be, okay, do we want to play Bazemore? Do we want to play Hood? How does Anfernee Simons look alongside Damon CJ? What do some of those bench units look like? But to me, the starting lineup should be kind of set in stone, given the top talent of this roster. So
Mm.
that was a bit of a head scratcher for me.
Well, I mean, it's kind of we just this is the time to see what Tolliver and Hassan can do. But I get it. Like, we really should be putting major resources in making sure that Zach and Hassan have a good chemistry and know each other's skills and weaknesses. But I'm gonna trust Terry Stotts on this one. And if he wants to just do some experimentation on lineups, I'd rather it be today than in 10 days from now or 11 days from now when the regular season starts. I mean, do you expect the team to go out and be good day one? Because I think it's going to take a while for these teams that have a lot of turnover. Like, damn near every good team in this conference has had major turnover. I don't expect them to be hitting on all cylinders day one. I think it's going to be a process of them learning from each other. So I kind of expect them not to be as crisp as the team last year was.
Oh, obviously, I don't expect them to play at the level they were playing against the Denver Nuggets in the postseason, or even how they were firing on all cylinders post All-Star break. But do I expect them to be good? Absolutely. There's too much talent not to be good. I think where they move from great to elite comes from months of playing together, Nurkic returning, but good, absolutely. They better be good. Otherwise, they are not going to make the playoffs come April. That's what I'm trying to say. There needs to be some urgency because every game matters in the Western Conference. This isn't the Cleveland Cavaliers of the Eastern Conference with LeBron James, where you can literally sleepwalk 60 games into the season and still get the top seed. This is the 50th anniversary season. This is one of Damian Lillard's 6-7 remaining prime years. Don't take this shit for granted, Rip City. Like, yes, we made it to the Western Conference Finals, and that's amazing, but we can't just sit back and say, oh, that was an awesome year. I'm satisfied. No, we have to hold this team accountable. And yes, there are going to be learning curve. There is going to be a huge learning curve, and I think everyone should expect that. And I understand that there were 22 turnovers, 22 or 24 turnovers last night. What worries me is that 17 of those turnovers came from Dame, CJ, and Hassan. That is not a good sign that your building blocks really are the ones that are turning the ball over. I mean, Anfernee Simons played a whole game against Haifa in 30 minutes, didn't turn the ball over. Yes, they need to work on the pick and rolls. Is Hassan even going to be utilized in the pick and roll? He struggled mightily setting screens throughout
he slipped it before they even made contact.
Through the first 24 minutes.
But do you think it might have been the ankle that was making him a little nervous about creating contact? Or he does slip screens because he is athletic. But this was a bad one where he was just slipping screens before there was even an inch of space generated by the screen.
I mean, it could be a number of things, and a lot of it probably is going to be with the lack of experience he has playing with our ball handlers. And again, I am completely okay with turnovers as long as they look like they're growing pain turnovers, and they are going to happen. What bothered me last night was the complete and utter disinterest from the majority of the team. I saw Aaron Baines probably could have made a sandwich, had some chips, and some sweet tea before Hassan even knew he had the ball twice on 3-point shots. Maybe once is a prove-it shot, but at least make an effort to go out there. Just the rotations on the 3-point shots were abysmal. Phoenix set a new franchise record for an opponent with 24 3-pointers made. They were only 3 shy of the NBA record.
Could you imagine a Monty Williams coach team doing that too? That's insane.
This was without Devin Booker.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know a lot of people were saying, oh, man, they were just hitting everything. Well, yeah, they started hitting some tough shots, but you know what happens when you're an NBA player and you give them a rhythm? Once they hit the easy ones, the hard ones are just going to feel just like the easy ones. It's all mental and muscle memory. So once you get a good, sweat and rhythm going, it's lights out. Portland allowed them early on to believe they could win, and Phoenix looked like they wanted to be there. Yes, it's preseason, and thankfully it does not count, but I have not been that bummed out over a preseason game probably in forever. And it could be because I'm pretty snake bitten by this franchise. I mean, you look at every year we're supposed to be really good. I mean, you go back to when we drafted Greg Oden. What happens? Tears his ACL. Okay. What happens the year after we win 54 games? That's the 40th anniversary season. Everyone got hurt. We didn't even get out of the first round of the playoffs. You know, what happened after Dame hit the shot against Houston? The following year, West goes down, and that season gets derailed. You know, what happened the year after we beat the Clippers in the first round? The team thought they were too good, got a little bit really high on themselves.
2016.
Did not scrap like they were supposed to in 2017. It took a miracle trade to get Nurkic just to get to the 8th seed, where then we ended up getting swept. So this team does have a history of thinking they can just go out and win on talent when that is the absolute opposite way. This team is a talented team, but they don't have elite talent, especially across the board. And when they play well, it's when they really go out and scrap and claw and play with an urgency and a swagger. We saw that against the Thunder. We saw that against the Nuggets, and it stretches against the Warriors. But we've also seen this team when they play a little too cool for school, and they think they're good enough.
I mean, I remember, maybe 2015, when the 76ers were just straight up tanking for the process, and Ed Davis went on CJ's radio show saying, we got this shit against the Sixers, and then the Sixers, they still have NBA talent, they can still ball, and they beat us. So I mean, definitely there is a narrative of them not being too cool for school, but it's not these players. I mean, there's a lot of turnover on this team, so hopefully all these veteran guys know we got to turn this shit up. I know we don't have the talent for it, but like, we need to actually put our thinking caps on and focus. I think that we will see them be more serious as the preseason goes on against Utah and Denver.
Well, I think they're really only going to get one chance to do it. I would be surprised if Terry Stotts plays them big minutes in a back-to-back scenario at Denver. But Wednesday in Utah, I would expect that to be the most dress rehearsal that you can get leading up to a regular season game. And I believe it's only on radio. So when I hear
Come on, Trailblazers, that's some bullshit. I get a Euro team when you're not broadcasting. And it was cool to hear Norris Cole and Brandon Rush's name think that they still play basketball. But it's the Utah Jazz. That's a playoff team. We're a playoff team. Come on, guys. Rip City Maniacs want to see this game. And
I want to see how they respond.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, you know, I know this team is issuing in a lot of new players, and individually, you know, it's really strange how I'm feeling about this team in the present state, because individually, I like what a lot of the players are bringing. I think Bazemore is going to be a fan favorite. I love his defense. He looks like he's going to play the passing lanes quite a bit. His
Super aggressive.
3-point shot looks wet. Love him coming off the bench. Still can't believe we got him for Evan Turner. That is a steal. I really love how Labissiere has played given larger minutes. Zach Collins looks like he belongs. He has gained noticeable muscle. Even though his 3-point shot hasn't really dropped, he's shooting it with considerable amounts of confidence. He's hitting the mid-range. He still misses a few bunnies around the rim, but his weak side defense has been incredible. Very, very happy with how Zach has been playing. CJ looked like the 13th best player in the NBA, which ESPN rated him against the Phoenix Suns. I mean, 27 points, 10 of 17 from the field. I mean, just looked like he
looked locked in. He was ready to.
He looked like an all-star. Very happy with CJ. I think Hazonia is going to be a really nice piece off the bench. I love his ability to push the ball first and foremost. The highlight against Haifa, where he got the ball on the sidelines and just ran down the court for the two-hand jam. He and Zach even had a nice give-and-go alley-oop. He's very unselfish. There was a play against the Suns where the possession before he shot a three and it missed. He had another opportunity, but instead he swung the ball around to Simons. Simons hit the three. Speaking of Penny, his 3-point shot has been pure.
Confident as hell, dog.
I mean, I've really enjoyed watching him play and grow, but collectively, they look like a unit who is incorporating a lot of new talent. And again, if it wasn't about the effort, I'd be okay. Like, yeah, we gotta get these guys incorporated. But what I watched on Saturday night left me with a really poor taste in my mouth. And they've got 2 games to really set the tone before it begins. Because if this team truly thinks that they can just mentally flip their switch come October 23rd, they're going to get run out of the gym by the Denver Nuggets, because that team has a bitter taste left in their mouths.
Absolutely.
And Portland, they're the ones who are responsible for it, and they are now the hunted. They're no longer the hunter. They are the hunted in the Western Conference. People are not going to sleep on them. They ruined the Oklahoma City Thunder. They ruined the Denver Nuggets' magical season. Russ is going to be ready to go in Houston against them. Paul George is going to be ready to go against them in Los Angeles. They did not make any allies last year, and as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want people to, think of good thoughts about your franchise. You want them to be pissed off because they got bodied. I got a few questions for you about this team in the preseason. Do you think Hezonja is going to be what do you think his role is? Is he a consistent rotation player? Is he the small ball 4? What do you think his role will be? Because we have a lot of talent.
We have a lot of talent
in his position group too. So what do you think his role will be?
It's interesting to say, because Nurkic aside, I think the Blazers have 7 players that are guaranteed to get minutes every single night. You've got the starting 5, which I'm projecting to be Dame, CJ, Rodney, Zach, Hassan, and I think Bazemore and Anfernee are guaranteed spots off the bench. So to me, the biggest question marks and the biggest minutes that are up for grabs are at the 3, 4, and 5. Mm-hmm. And Hezonja, Labissiere, Gasol, Tolliver, they're all in the mix to get that time. I would say at this point, he's definitely got to be 8th or 9th off the bench. I mean, what he gives this team is something that we just don't have. I mean, you're looking at a legit 6'9", 240 big who can push the ball, has great vision, and I think once they get comfortable playing with one another, you're going to start to see some of the passes that Evan Turner was making, especially those lobs to Jake Layman. I think he's going to start to get in rhythms with guys that he plays in certain rotation groups with. The other big, I would like to see it go to Scal. I think he has the most upside. Frankly, when we signed Anthony Tolliver, I was pretty excited because he is a specialist. But with that comes, I wouldn't say do or die mentality, but in a sense, if you're not hitting your 3-point shot, or in his case, even shooting the ball, I mean, he played 18 minutes last night and took 1 field goal attempt. If you're not getting open, he really has no role on the roster, because you're not going to dump it to him. You're not going to play ISO ball, and he's still not the fleetest of foot on the defensive end. He's a very smart and intelligent player, but he is a 10-year vet, so he's got a lot of wear and tear. To me, he reminds me of a James Jones the 1 year we had him. If you're not hitting your 3, probably don't need to be playing. And then Pau Gasol, I really think we're going to save him as much as possible. Probably I would not believe we see him on back-to-backs. I think they're going to really slow move him into the rotation probably by mid-November, maybe even later. These are just thoughts. I mean, it's taken him this long to recover, and he is 39, so you want to take your time. He's an older guy. But Scal,
I like Scal.
I think he deserves 9th, 10th man minutes.
I think Pau Gasol really for this year is just going to be break glass in case of need center type of thing, because we have guys that can play, and I think that the only time you don't see Hezonja in at the 4 is when it's like a traditional 4-5. Then I think you put Tolliver in just because of the bulk that he takes up. But I like what Hezonja is doing. I I just think that Tolliver is going to get more minutes than we're expecting right now. Another question I have hey man, it is what it is. We're not the Warriors of old. We have to have some weaknesses. I think Tolliver is the weakness on the four, but if he's hitting, he'll be fine. What do you think Skal Labissier's ceiling can be? What do you think the type of player he could be?
I mean, he kind of looks like a young Pau Gasol. The way he gets in the post, he's able to shoot the ball. I mean, that's who he kind of. I mean, you're talking peak. That's the peak for me. What I would like to see from Skal is just consistency, confidence, gets the ball, knows what he's going to do. Again, that comes with coaching. That comes with knowing you're not going to get pulled. And defensively knowing where he needs to be in his rotations. He's really good from what I've seen so far in the preseason of just hanging around the rim, especially on the offensive glass.
The pogo stick.
A few tip dunks. I think playing with Hassan and Nurk and Pau and Zach in practice and hopefully picking up on some of their defensive instincts is really going to take his game. I think if you're expecting any more than just a serviceable bench player from Skal, I think you're setting your expectations a bit too high. But if he can come in for 15, 18 minutes a night and get you 8-9 points, a few boards, and just be a positive, a net positive. I mean, that's really what you want from your bench. You want somebody who's a specialist and that when you put them in there, you're not afraid that lead's going to evaporate. You want someone who's going to keep things steady while your really good players are resting up to make that push. And I think that's what he can be. He just needs time. And really, while Nurkic is rehabbing and so is Gasol, from what I've seen, he's deserved it. He deserves to get some time to showcase what he can be.
I love the hustle mentality that he plays with because he was a blue chip recruit. Remember in Kentucky, it was Ben Simmons and him who was going to be the first pick. So he has skills. He has skills. So, of course, being on the Kings at that time of being on the Kings was just so detrimental to young prospects. Ben McLemore was supposed to be elite. He was supposed to be elite. Being in a good scenario with players that trust him and coaches that trust him now too is going to be good. I really want him to be a high energy big this year. If he's that, I'm super thankful that he's on the roster.
Absolutely.
And a question I have is, I'm leaning more Kent Bazemore to be the starter, but Rodney Hood be the finisher. Do you really think that Rodney Hood's going to be the starting small forward?
I think Rodney should be the starting small forward because if you look back to the Denver series and to the Golden State series, when Portland put their best lineups on the floor, it was Dame, CJ, Rodney, Zach, and Ennis. We have 4 of those guys. Rodney Hood is a starting caliber player in this league. I mean, you looked at it. What was the first play they ran against the Denver Nuggets in the preseason?
Post up.
They posted Rodney on Jamal Murray. Kent Bazemore and Rodney Hood are different players, and I disagree with Neil O'Shea in a sense that he thought that Kent Bazemore would be Rodney Hood's replacement. I just don't see that. I think they're 2 different types of players, both very talented and both very needed. But the better player is Rodney Hood, and we saw how good he could be in the playoffs when he gets into a rhythm and he starts to find his groove within the Trailblazers offense. I think he is an underrated defender. I love Kent Bazemore off the bench, and here's why. You always want a high-energy guy off the bench. I mean, the best teams can just bring that guy in, and he just keeps everybody up. He keeps everyone going. He sets that tone. He is the one that says, we're not only going to keep this lead, we are going to extend it. Or if the starters have a rough start, okay, let's get our team back. Let's scrap and claw. He's going to play fantastic defense. He is going to get us a lot of fast break points. And I truly think that he is going to be, I think, a better scorer off the bench. I think he's more than just a guy who you spot up in the corner with a Dame CJ type of offense. I think you can run a little bit through him in certain situations, but I really just like how he can play with an up-tempo offense. And there are going to be nights that you'll see Rodney finish, and there are going to be nights you see Kent finish. It's going to be dependent on how the game goes, how it's flowing, and matchup based. But to me, I think Bazemore is your 6th, 7th man off the bench along with Simons. Hopefully they get a lot of good chemistry together. But so far, I have been absolutely thrilled with what I've seen from Kent Bazemore. Again, cannot overstate this enough. How did we get him for Evan Turner? I mean, the upgrade is
so real
in every single aspect of basketball. Incredibly real.
So I think that not Evan Turner. I don't need to say that name ever again.
No.
I think that Kent Bazemore, if I was coaching, I would have Kent be the starter, and I would have Rodney be the finisher if he's hot. I think Kent Bazemore can fit into the spot-up shooter role more, and I think that Rodney Hood off that bench against 3rd and 4th string guards would feast, and I would like to see him be another big scorer off the bench. But either way, it's a good problem to have. Your starting small forward be 2 legitimate NBA players. But I would like to see Kent start the game and then Rodney finish it.
Do you think Kent's big enough to be a small forward? He's only 6'5".
He has long ass arms though. But like how many small forwards in the league would straight up abuse Kent and Rodney? Like there's not that many small forwards that Kent couldn't defend, but Rodney could.
I'm just saying because we already have a small backcourt.
Absolutely, yeah. But like the whole Kent too small thing doesn't really work because if there's a guy, if it's LeBron James, he's bodying Rodney Hood as well. If it's Paul George, he's bodying Rodney as well. So I would take the 80% of the teams in the NBA that don't have that small forward that can punish and run Kent Bazemore and be pretty damn happy about it.
My philosophy is you get your 5 best guys and you start them or you finish them.
Well, even even in Blazers past, I don't think Noah Vonleh was the best player. I think Ed Davis was a better player than him, but they started him because of, they wanted to get him minutes. So
I thought Noah was. You're talking about the president of the Noah Vonleh fan club here. So
I get that, and I made money off him in daily fantasy this year. I'm Noah Vonleh in the first part of the year with the Knicks, gold in my eyes, dog. But sometimes it's good to have a punch of offense off the bench. Man, remember when it was only Mo Williams being the only bench player? Like I would love to have a bench that not only keeps us in games but gets us a bigger lead. Like Rodney Hood and Anfernee Simons off the bench is some firepower.
I completely agree. I just think Bazemore and Simons is the combo.
And I think it's Hood and Penny. I mean, it's a good problem to have 2 good small forwards. Bro, I don't remember when we've had 2 good small forwards on the Blazers.
2000.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we had the depth. And, I mean, they're not, all-star potential, but they're legitimate NBA guys. It's not like we're playing with a dude who could be a 2-way player getting major minutes for us, or, 2 inconsistent small forwards fighting for minutes. These guys are legitimate NBA players, and they both deserve minutes. I just think it's on Stotts to make sure that they give us enough offense for the times where it's the bench rotation. And, in that final 5 minutes, man, whoever's the hot one's probably going to stay. Do you think CJ and Dame are going to play the majority of their minutes together, or do you think we spread them out so at least one dude is on the floor at all times?
I mean, that's another big decision that Terry Stotts
has to make.
I mean, we've seen over the tenure of CJ and Dame, Terry go back and forth on this. Frankly, I didn't think we were strong enough last year to have both of them off of the court at the same time. I didn't think our bench had enough firepower. But with the emergence of Anfernee Simons, to me, I think you always want one of them on the floor, because what's going to make Anfernee the player that he is it's not just saying, okay, you're our sixth man, you're going to run the show when both CJ and Dame are out, and now the entire defense is going to focus and lock in on you. No, what it's going to be is you're going to surround Anfernee with Kent Bazemore or Rodney Hood and one of Dame or CJ. And the defense is going to have to really respect those other players so it allows Anfernee to roam freely. And you have to give Anfernee the tools for success. And I think that's how you do it, is putting him alongside other talented players, because I'd feel really bad for Penny if we just said, jump into the deep end, you're going to run the show just like you did against the Kings in game 82, and you better perform like that. That's not going to work, because he's still 19, 20 years old and is starting his second NBA season. So to me,
do you think I kind of think of Anfernee as redshirting that first year? So this is the legitimate, first real run. I think that in the beginning of the year, you're right. I don't think that Anfernee will be able to run the show, but if he proves himself and, keeps improving, I could definitely see him running the show by himself. Because just think about the power that you have when you're Terry Stotts, where you can play CJ and Dame together. That, if they're hitting, and I think that they have to be hitting together, that's going to be really difficult for teams to stop both of them at the same time. I mean, this is CJ McCollum's year to shine. He is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. So if we could have them play like in the playoffs where both of them were hitting at the same time, dude, it's going to make the games a lot easier with just so much power in that offensively. I talked about how last year was a redshirt year for Anfernee. Do you think it's a redshirt year for Nassir Little?
If you would have asked me that right after we drafted him, maybe even after Summer League, I would have said absolutely. But after what I've seen from Anthony Tolliver and Mario Hezonja and just the entire roster, I've liked what I've seen from Hezonja. I like what Tolliver could potentially bring. But when Michael Porter Jr. was talking a lot of shit to the Blazers, Dame grabbed Nassir and he said, don't talk back, let your play do the talking. And that was one of the drawbacks to Nassir's draft stock, was, can you keep him fully locked and loaded? Can you unleash that potential? He had a dribble where he went behind the back, he split the defender, got right past Porter Jr., went up and under for the and one, and he played an extremely strong second half against similar caliber players against the Denver Nuggets in that opening preseason game. He looked much better than he ever did at any stretch against the Summer League competition. You watch him shoot threes as the teams warm up. He's knocking them down extremely consistently. 80% this is his redshirt year, but, knock on wood, if there are any injuries, I hope that there aren't. I think you throw him in there a bit and see what he can do. You have a leader like Dame, and if Dame can tap into this kid, I mean, he won the MVP of the Jordan Brand Classic. A guy named Zion Williamson was in that game as well. He was a top 5 recruit. He was supposed to be a top 5 draft pick. Things don't always go as planned when you're a one-and-done player, especially at a blue blood program like North Carolina.
With seniors.
Where seniors play, nothing but a national championship matters, and I don't care how highly you're rated, you're not just going to play based upon that ranking. So you kind of have to wait your turn a bit. So he didn't really get a chance to get into a groove at UNC. I think the Blazers really did get a steal at 25. Absolutely. And I think, yes, it's probably a redshirt year, but, man, I would really love to see if he's able to get some time, because you're looking at a prototypical small forward when you look at Nassir Little. And if he can put it all together in a few years, we're going to look back at that 2019 draft and think, damn, we won that draft.
Absolutely.
Just like we're starting to look back at 2018, say, man, we got Simons, we got Trent, that what a draft.
Do you think Garrett Trent's going to get real legitimate minutes?
If by being in the rotation, no. But I think if you're playing him on back-to-backs, absolutely. Um, it's unfortunate that, at least I've seen this online in some of the forums, that he's become the new Myers Leonard, the player that every fan seems to love to hate on. And
Damn. I'm
I
sorry,
just
Garrett.
don't get it, because he's a willing defender. I think he passes when he needs to. He's a chucker, and that's okay because he comes off the bench, and you need guys
You
who
need
that's
offense off the bench.
you need offense off the bench. And
Irrational
again,
confidence players do really well as chuckers off the bench, and I think he has it. But he also has the archetype, the skills that one would possess. uh,
Backboard.com
I know.
is sponsored by Grammarly.
It actually is. Don't lie. It is. I use it so I don't look like a total dummy when I'm writing texts and emails. But like he has the body that he's thick, but he's strong but short, kind of like Buddy Hield and Wes Matthews. So he has all those things that you look for, and 3-point shooting was his thing coming out of college. He has a chance to be good. I just really don't think it's going to be on the Portland Trail Blazers. There's a lot.
I could see it being on the Blazers. I mean, this kid would be a junior in college right now. I think we need to slow our roll in terms of managing our expectations, because not everyone is a Dame. Not everyone is even an Anfernee Simons, where they come out of nowhere and now all of a sudden in their sophomore year they're being hyped up at end by the GM and by everyone within the organization. Players take time. Everyone talks about their Jermaine O'Neal for Dale Davis trade. Jermaine took a lot of time before that trade was like, oh shit, we really fucked up there.
Man.
Like, players develop at different stages. Mm-hmm. He is a second-round pick. It was a very low cost, very minimal investment. It's not like we're asking him to come in and start or even be the sixth man. Let him be the 10th or 11th man, get his run, and just improve. He's on a cost-controlled contract. Given the nature of Portland's salary situation, we need to be welcoming those contracts with open arms. Just give the kid a chance.
Mm-hmm. Do you care about any of those guys that would be like the third seat, like the two-way contract guys?
The second two-way contract?
Like in the Suns game, the last 5 minutes of the game, all of these players that I sort of remember but don't really know who they are, do you think any of them have a chance?
Well, Horde is already one of our two-way contracts, and he has had his moments, played at Wake Forest. I think if you're going to use the other two-way contract, you might as well take a flyer on Moses Brown, who I believe just turned 20 from UCLA.
Is he the guy with the dreads?
Yeah, needs to hit the weight room.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Chris Johnson from LSU.
From the Blazers?
Yeah. That's where I remember him from, really.
Chris Johnson, he had one memorable block in the 2011 playoffs against the Dallas Mavericks.
That's who he reminds me of.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you look at the hips and look at how he moves, it's like, oh, that's Chris Johnson. What's up, man? I mean, Chris Johnson got a second and maybe third contract.
Yeah, so yeah, if we're talking about a two-way contract, I would definitely look at a Moses Brown. That'd be my pick.
Like, I was watching the game with my old boss from the radio station, and he was like, "Do you know any of these players?" I was like, "Nope, no, I don't think they're gonna be that very, very good." Oh wait, that dude moves like Chris Johnson used to. I like him.
Yeah, it's for me when I see training camp guys go into the game, I just kind of tune out a bit because
that's me normally.
They're not gonna make the roster. We may see them again in Summer League, but it's more to just showcase them to European teams and maybe the G League as well to do them a solid. So I kind of tune that out a bit.
Same here. I think Horde has a chance because he's like actual Mo Harkless size and athleticism. Like, he has physical attributes that could be nice, so it'd be good to keep him under that two-way contract. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely learned some stuff about our team in these first two televised games of the Portland Trail Blazers.
Good or bad, yes, we have learned about this team. Let's get to some fan questions, Sage. First, from Toby M. Green wants to know, the Blazers haven't looked great in preseason, which is normal for how much turnover the roster has had. When does that switch come from give them time to panic?
Month or two into the season, unfortunately.
For me, I'm going to say the first 20 games. And usually that's a month into the season. I believe that takes us through November 29th. But we are going to be tested our first 20 games. 7 of them are at home, while 13 of them are away from the friendly confines. 12 of those games are against teams that made the playoffs in 2019. And I think if Portland can honestly be 10-10 through the first 20 games, they're going to be fine.
Dope, yeah.
Just because of the history of Terry Stotts and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum of just playing so well after the All-Star break, and just knowing that our schedule is home heavy after the first 20 games of the season. But I think we are in for some growing pains. And to me, as long as I see the effort being made, there's not really too much you can do about it. But if what I saw last night becomes more of the norm than the exception, I think hot seats are going to get hot. I think contracts are going to start to be, December 15th is coming up. Players who signed in the offseason are now eligible to be moved. I think that's really going to pick up. So, that's just the name of the game. The team has to play like their playoff lives are on the line, and they have to do that starting game one. I mean, the bottom line is the Blazers have 2 large expiring contracts in Hassan Whiteside and Kent Bazemore. For the most part, if you read Jason Quick, he had a Q&A in The Atlantic, says he's heard a source that says he does not expect either one of those players to be traded at all this year. And, I kind of got that vibe watching Hassan in his Instagram stories, always repping the team. It looks like he's bringing his fish out to Portland. He just got this huge property in the suburbs. Normally you don't do that if you haven't been given some reassurances from the front office. But again, that goes both ways. If they're not seeing the type of production or effort that they're accustomed to seeing, especially from someone making $24 million, then I think that you can flip the script, and that player now becomes a desirable contract to move. So yeah, I give them the first 20 games of the year. We still have Dame and CJ, and I think that's important to note. They should be good enough on most nights to get it done, and there are going to be a lot of times where maybe we have a turnover where someone should have cut, but they didn't. That's going to come from not playing with one another, not knowing certain movements or where somebody likes the ball. I think the biggest growing pain is going to be with Hassan Whiteside and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Like, do they like the pick and roll? Where do they like it set? How long does he set the screen? They're used to Myers Leonard and Yusuf Nurkic setting those screens. They're used to that type. One thing I will say, though, is, and maybe this is credit to Enes Kanter, but he came in and fit in immediately like a glove. Just leave that out there.
So I have a question from Dillon Sage. What do you expect CJ McCollum's production to look like this year?
Dude, I think CJ, I said it on Twitter, CJ is going to be a first-time All-Star.
Yeah, I think that he's going to produce like a first-time All-Star. Just because who would even challenge him a little bit for usage? There isn't anybody, really. Like, he's going to have the ball as much as he can handle. He's going to have to be that secondary superstar for the entire year. There is no Yusuf Nurkic, last year's version of Yusuf Nurkic coming through that door. So he's gonna have to take his usage and then add a little bit. Because Hassan Whiteside, I like him. He's not gonna be a usage monster. He's gonna catch the ball and dunk it. So CJ McCollum's gonna get a whole bunch of extra possessions to work with. So I expect that he is going to have a really good year. And I like that he said he wants to get more free throws, because
I think
that's awesome.
If we look back at this season and the Blazers finish top 4, I think number 1, you're going to say Dame did the damn thing, but not far behind. CJ is going to be neck and neck with him in terms of production. If we're able to do that, it's because CJ really upped his level and played at the level he did against Denver, where that was the 13th best player in the league. I mean, you're really looking at a guy saying, okay, we can truly build around these two players. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They did it once in 2019. They're doing it again in 2020, with the majority of that coming without Jusuf Nurkic. So a lot of pressure on CJ, but from what I've seen so far, he looks absolutely incredible. I mean, there may not be a better guard in the league with the ball in his hands, able to just keep defenders basically on their heels. And he's got one of the quickest releases in the game. Really not a weakness in the offense for CJ. Like
Pressure. Pressure either busts pipes or creates diamonds. So it's on CJ to prove that he's a diamond.
Which I if I had money, I would bet on it being diamond.
Man, I forgot who did that rhyme. Oh shit, I think it might have been John Connor. Yeah, man. You got anything else you want to talk about for this first episode back?
Another question from Brisney Blazers wants to know how much of Whiteside's issues in Miami are due to signing as the number one guy, which he did in the summer of 2016 when D Wade left, to dropping in the order and eventually losing his place.
So what was it again? Sorry.
How much of Whiteside's issues, so I think there are some motivational issues that happened in Miami, are due to him signing as the number one guy when he did in 2016. But when D Wade came back, he kind of dropped in the pecking order.
I think it wasn't D Wade, though. I think it was Bam Adebayo's abilities. Last year, if you look at his minutes per game, he was getting 26 minutes, and for a center that produces that much, he should be getting more minutes. I think it was Bam Adebayo, not Dwayne Wade coming back, that was a big hindrance to his role. I mean, if Bam Adebayo wasn't there, he'd be getting 35 minutes a game because there isn't that elite center. It's James Johnson and not Kelly Oubre, the white one. Olynyk, yeah. So I think Bam Adebayo was the reason he was so low in the. I mean, he still started, but he didn't play the real minutes. I mean that like last year there was a poll on one of the daily fantasy sites saying if you knew the minutes to any player, what would you be making the most money on? And it was Hassan Whiteside by far. If you knew what he was going to be playing via minutes, you could make a lot of money because he produces. But Bam Adebayo is younger, is on a cost-controlled contract, and is going to have another 5 years on the Miami Heat. Hassan Whiteside last year, this was going to be the last year this year. So, of course, you're going to spend more time and resources on a guy like Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, when it comes to Hassan, you're not going to find someone who is more excited about the acquisition than you or I. And we all felt that the culture with the coaching staff, with the leadership of Dame and CJ, that they would be able to get through to him and get him back to the player that he was in Miami that earned him that 4-year deal. You have Hassan saying he wants to lead the league in blocks and rebounds, and he's basically a guaranteed starter until Jusuf Nurkic returns. I don't know if it's due to the ankle or what, but he just and Olga and I kind of talked about this after the game against Phoenix. He just looks like he's moving at half speed, and for a guy who is basically the biggest acquisition that we had in the offseason, a guy looking to really rebuild his reputation, and a guy playing for his contract, I would have expected him to play with a little bit more passion, a little bit more aggressiveness. Like if you're getting moving screens because you're moving up there too quick, like you're hustling, that's fine. Like, okay, you could see he's really ready to go. He's ready, like there's a fire lit under his ass. I haven't seen that. He just looks slow to me, and that is concerning as hell.
We gotta see it. We gotta see it when it in the season. If you're feeling that way in November, then yeah, we have a fucking problem on our hands. But
my point though is, Sage, and take this in your job and my job and in your daily life. If you're at a place and your reputation gets knocked and you go somewhere else, regardless of whether it's your first 90 days of training or you're in your second year trying to get that raise, wouldn't you want to rebuild that reputation as soon as possible? Like, wouldn't that drive just to be like, no, I am this person you really thought I was. I am good at my job. Yes, but we're thankful it doesn't count right now, but man, I guess I just would have approached it differently.
I mean, we're not doctors and we don't know how injured he was. There's a lot of factors besides him being lazy. And man, like, I know athletes are, confident, but man, like, it would only behoove him to bust his ass this year. And because this is going to be his last contract, really. And you want to find a team that's going to pay you the absolute most. So but I am waiting to freak out about Hassan Whiteside during the season when he's 100% healthy.
Yeah, I mean, you have much more patience than I do. Again, I'm not saying...
bro, I was sending you Hassan Whiteside trades in March. Like,
yeah, he's a fantastic player when he's locked in. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not saying trade him now or bench him. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I'm already having these thoughts 3 preseason games in from everything that the Miami Heat fans told us. Just not good signs. We're not heading in the right direction. We need to, beat, back this bus and turn it around and go the right direction.
I mean, I'm gonna wait to see for when games actually matter. I mean, we play the second day of the NBA season, right?
Yeah.
I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll put him on 100% of I'll put him on 50% of my daily fantasy rosters because I trust him so much.
And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. He was 5 for 5 against Phoenix. We did not look to give him the ball. They had nobody down low that could stop him. But if he's not going to be an integral part of the offense,
in game 1, they were looking for him on that.
Yes, but against Phoenix, when Dame and CJ actually played 30-plus minutes.
And how many did Hassan play that game?
21, I believe, because he had quite a bit of foul trouble. But we look at that, and it's one thing if you're taking advantage of him down low and you're feeding him, and he's producing, because you're going up against a stretch 5 and a Frank Kaminsky or Aaron Baines. That's not the best matchup for Hassan. He's a traditional center. He's going to be there to bang down low against the likes of a Rudy Gobert or a Joel Embiid. But if you're not using his advantage in offense and it's a bad matchup on the defensive end, that's a net negative on both ends.
Absolutely. But what if Terry Stotts said, to CJ and Dame, hey, we know Hassan's going to get his. Let's make sure option B gets to shine today.
For a new player,
I know, but I'm trying to
no. I'm just not having it. No, I understand what you're saying.
There's a lot of things we can't see by watching it on YouTube TV, and
I was there.
Oh well, I was watching it on YouTube TV, trying to get people to join the podcast network. So, but I don't think this is where we need to be critical. This is just for the tune-ups. I mean, you're going to hear me talk a bunch of shit about myself if he's acting like this in December. But I think we got to chill on being super angry right now.
Not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Okay. Sorry, Dad.
That's... Listen, nobody wants to see this team succeed more than I, but when I see bullshit, I call them out on it. And that's how we've been on this podcast for, 6 years now. So hopefully the team, they have 2 opportunities before the season starts to clean it up.
Well, one, really, you're not going to give up anything that you're going to do in the season to Denver the second time.
Absolutely.
So you have one.
If we're being, frank, and I was making my prediction for opening night right now, I would take Denver. Streak be damned. Jokic against Whiteside looks like a god-awful matchup for us right now.
Is it in Denver or is it in Portland?
Portland.
I'd probably go Portland because of the home crowd.
If Hassan gives Jokic that much time to shoot a three as much as he did Aaron Baines, I mean,
who the fuck's Aaron Baines, though? Like, they're going to prepare Hassan for Joker being able to hit threes. And
don't get me wrong, Terry Stotts' strategy is to let the big sag off the pick and roll. That is the strategy. I'm completely aware of that. It has worked so far. But you still have to try to contest shots. And so...
But I think that the emergency level between for Hassan Whiteside, for Aaron Baines, I think he rebounds well to, holy shit, that's Joker. I better run the fuck out, There's going to be a difference. Nikola Jokic was the second best center in the NBA last year. First best.
I say he's the best. Yeah.
Okay. And Aaron Baines was a nice third big for Boston. There's just going to be a difference of intensity levels against a guy that made opposing centers look weak against him last year.
That again is a huge concern, because being a Blazers fan, we have always played down to the level of our competition for as long as I can remember. And that type of thought process kind of feeds right into that. Like, oh, we're playing the Kings tonight. Can relax. Maybe pay attention to De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, but can relax against Harrison Barnes and Bogdanovich and all. We're fine. That's what gets us those losses. Like, this is going to be a bloodbath. We have to be on our P's and Q's every single night. And I know it's tough. I know it's mentally grinding, especially 82 games. And trust me, the travel is real. I can just take a regular vacation and just be wiped out from a flight. These guys, especially from Portland, are traveling 3, 4, 5 hours just to get to every single destination. So I understand you can't be locked in 100% every single night, but they're going to have to try their best to do so, just because given the nature of the conference. And I just don't want to see us waste this year. I know Nurk's out. We'll get him back sometime, and he may not be that Nurk until we need him to be in next fall. But I just don't want to take what we have for granted just because of the successes we had last year. We cannot rest on our laurels.
Denver is the one elite team that's in our tier of teams that hasn't had any real continuity changes. They've been this team for full 82, for many years. So they're going to have an advantage over us game one, just because, I know what Jamal Murray wants to do on this side. He wants the pick and roll, and he wants me to fade to the side or whatever. So game one might be tough.
But you are absolutely right. And if we lose because Denver out X's and O's us, or just hit tougher shots, tip your hat to them and say, good job on a season opening victory. But if they beat us because they're getting to more loose balls, they're out hustling us on the boards, and they're just being overall more aggressive, to me, that just is not acceptable. Not with everything that has happened over the past 12 months.
Luckily for us, damn near every team is going through a, 5 rotation players are coming in, 5 left. Denver's the one team that's like, this is us, baby. This is us.
Yeah.
So game one's gonna be tough, but we don't need to talk about that today. We can sign off by saying you can hear us on Stitcher, iTunes, Himalaya Podcast, Nothing But Net Radio, Tuesdays 2 to 3, and we are now on Blazers Uprising, a YouTube channel. You can see our beautiful faces on I think Tuesdays as well. They will be rebroadcasting us, so you'll be seeing a lot of us this year. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will be back soonish.
We'll be back next Sunday. We will do our season preview episode next Sunday. We will predict the week's games, talk about what we saw from the final 2 preseason games against Utah and Denver. Hopefully we have something better to talk about other than a 16-point loss to the depleted Phoenix Suns. And then it's time for the real deal to begin. Portland looks to win their 18th or 19th straight game in a row against a division rival. I mean, this really could set the tone for the season. Portland gets Denver and then hits the road for 4 straight. So big time game coming up just 10 days from now. Sage, can't believe it's here, but it's back. And I'm looking forward to kicking it with you on a weekly basis, my friend.
Absolutely. And I'm off to try and get that 99 in NBA 2K20. So I'll talk to you later, my guy.
We got to bring back Sage's 2K corner for this season.
So there was a fall patch that really fucked everything up, and it was about 40 gigs of memory for Xbox. And you couldn't, if you wanted to play 2K with your friends, you would automatically go to your secondary player, not your best player. So it made me lose quite a bit. I only have one player, but my 2 teammates have 2, so it was, we had to be very selective of who gets to be their ult and who gets to be their legit player. But then they did another patch to fix the fall patch that broke the game. But yeah,
I've heard this game's been extremely buggy so far.
Oh, it is, but I may sound like a someone talking about their shitty boyfriend, and but my God, when it works so good.
Oh man, you sound in denial, homie.
On some real shit, it is a lot of fun, but it is buggy as absolute shit. But I have so much fun playing it.
That's all. Hey, if it makes you happy at the end of the day, do you, buddy?
I mean, people are saying that I play like someone you hate, and it's sad to say, but I play a lot like Russell Westbrook. I get triple dubs though. Come on now, but it's fun, and I really do enjoy this game. Buggy, when you get past the bugginess and you get to see it as as a game, it's really fun.
Is 2K paying you, Sage?
Dude, if they did, I wouldn't be so poor. I wouldn't be so poor if 2K was paying me, bro.
Just saying, you definitely ride or die for 2K, but I appreciate
there
it.
ain't other doggy. I talk about video games a lot. I'm ass at every video game that isn't NBA 2K. I am dog shit at every single video game that isn't NBA 2K. There were days and weeks where I was on the leaderboards for like the 5th best point guard. Now I'm like in the 50th. But like, dog, I fuck with this game.
Yeah, you do. That's your boo. You're in a relationship with 2K.
Dog, it is something else, but it will be back next week for me to talk about the new patches and stuff like that.
We need to get some music whenever you drop in Sage's 2K corner.
Just some sexy fucking some sexy jazz beat. Oh, all right. How do you like? All right, we're keeping recording. How did you like the new Sky Zoo record?
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah. So
as always.
So musically for me, but like I have been listening to Sky Zoo's new record, but then I have been throwing it back and listening to like 456 by Cool G Rap and Muddy Waters by Redman. So I am in a really good place right now with my hip hop listening. If you haven't listened to 456 by Cool G Rap, listen to it and then think about like all of your favorite MCs that like use the same type of style that Cool G Rap does. He is just killing it with the rhymes. So yeah, shout out to Cool G Rap and shout out to Redman.
Yeah, I've definitely been listening to Sky Zoo, Pete Rock. Been throwing it back to Black Star, Talib, and Mos Def, and I'm still on Big Crit's latest album. So those have been kind of the 3 that I've been in rotation with.
That is the holy backboard hip hop picks of the week. All right, peace out, buddy. I have to go.